My 11 Circle presents Crickbuzz Live. What a finish to the year for Team India. If we talked about St. Nicholas or Nicholas Puran doing it for the West Indies and giving India a bit of a stiff challenge, it was India's own knight, Sir Ravindra Jadeja, who finally finished things off with a wonderful platform laid by Lokesh Rahul and, of course, Virat Kohli himself, taking them there but not quite there. This is how this final ODI of 2019 finished off for India. 316 for 6 with 8 balls to spare. There you see it, the contributions of Virat Kohli, KL Rahul, and very quietly, as we always say, Rohit Sharma never gets mentioned, always gets runs. But Jadeja and Shardul Thakur, surprise, surprise, at the end, finishing things off clinically for India. In the studio, I've got Simon Dool and Joy Bhattacharya. Joy, sometimes you were a little upset that Shardul Thakur, who should have been taking singles, doing it nice and quietly, decides a 4, a 6 here. Why do we take it down to the last ball?
Exactly. He didn't take my advice. I kept saying, rotate the strike, give it to the guy on strike. And he just instead sat there and hit a 4 and then hit a 6. And, sometimes cricket is such a wonderful game that makes you an idiot out of everyone.
17 of 6 balls. And it was a good move because you could have seen Shami coming in, we could have seen Kuldeep Yadav. They're both decent, they could have hung around, but they just sent him out, probably knowing that he can do this.
Yeah, and I think that's the right move, isn't it? Shami can hold a bat, there's no problem there. Kuldeep Yadav can hold a bat. There's no issue with him being able to rotate the strike, or either of those two being able to rotate the strike. It was all about, okay, well, let's send Shardul Thakur out. He can play some big shots. If he comes off with 2, and he needs 2 boundaries, and the game's done. The game is won. In the end, that's exactly what he did and took the pressure off Jadeja. And I think that may have been part of the message that Virat Kohli said when he walked out. And remember he stopped and had a little chat as they walked out. He might have said something like, listen, just play your shots. If you come off, it's done in 3 or 4 balls here. So play your shots and it certainly paid off. So, no, well done.
But the real question India answered was, and we asked it at the 35th over Combox, yes, we want Virat Kohli to be there at the end. Whole of India does. If he doesn't get it, is that going to be, can India actually do it? And the question was, well, more leaning towards no than yes. But with Jadeja and Shardul Thakur, they answered it.
I think they did. And I think we give definitely a lot of credit to Shardul Thakur because he, as he said, he must have had a mandate to go for it and said, if you get out, then we'll send a blocker and Jadeja will go the other end. Till then, you take the risk. But the point was, it was really set up by Jadeja. And Jadeja, I think, is one of the coolest hands in the business, and we underestimate the amount of runs he's got for CSK, many years back for Rajasthan Royals. He is a pressure player. And if you see the World Cup, you see any situation, he seems to come through when the pressure is high. He's just that kind of a guy. So just give him enough credit. I think that's a confidence that Virat had. And as long as Jadeja is still there, India has a chance.
You don't get triple hundreds in domestic cricket. By accident.
And that's the thing, isn't it? I think everybody's always talked about Jadeja's talent and his runs for Saurashtra in the Ranji Trophy and even in domestic 50-over competitions. But we haven't always seen the best of him. But maybe it's the pressure of being that all-rounder. Is he capable of batting 6 in a side? Is he good enough
he is.
to bat 6? Or, I know he's in at 7 at the moment. Is he good enough to bat 6? Is he good enough for India to play an all-rounder at 7? And go down that road, I don't know. Is it the fact that more responsibility brings out the better Ravi Jadeja with the bat? And maybe that's the case. And maybe all this time they've got it wrong having him at 8 and sometimes at 9 as well. So I don't know, but he's shown some good maturity in his last 10 games when he's had opportunities to finish it or to do the right thing. He's shown some very good maturity. Even in that semi-final against New Zealand, he was superb in that game when a lot fell over. So the flip side of that is that I think there's some pretty poor options taken by some of the more established batsmen. When you get in, you've got to make sure you go through and win the game, or you can't be getting out like Kedar Jadhav tonight. That was awful.
Yeah, played the wrong line.
Yeah, that certainly was. That they will look back at that, but I think once you want to just savor a victory, celebrate a victory, you will tide over those later. But just quickly from the West Indies point of view, when Virat Kohli got out, did they miss a trick? Could they have sort of gone for the jugular a bit more?
I think they held back a bit, but then again, remember those 2 boundaries happened almost immediately. You had the 4 out there, through cover, and then you had 2 extra cover, and then you had the 6. And that really changed the equation. You see, once the equation, they were content to hang back as long as the rate was 8, 9. But those 2 suddenly made the rate come to 7, 7.5, 6.5. And then it's almost a run a ball and the occasional risk. And that took those two boundaries took the risk out of it. And yeah, you can look at the West Indian bowling and say, see, that 6 could have come from anywhere. It wasn't a bad ball at all. And no,
it should have gone straight up.
Yeah,
you thought it was up.
It was top edge that went for 6, and that's the issue nowadays with pace on the ball. I mean, obviously the skiddy nature of the surface, a little bit of dew around. The 4 was a lovely shot. Give it to Shardul Thakur, but the 6 was a rank top edge.
Yeah.
You're sitting there going, oh, it's the baddest game. It's the baddest game.
But I think that, to be fair, overall, the good thing is that no one can point to the dew and say that caused the result as such. It was there, but it wasn't there to the extent they were not bowling with a bar of soap.
No, they weren't bowling with the bar of soap, and actually they bought back Harry Pereira for an over, if you remember. It went for 10. I don't think it was conclusive either way, but at that, bringing him back around the 39, 40th
showed that
it wasn't so bad at all. Yeah.
And I think that the simple fact that the whole series was a good contest.
Yeah, it was an excellent contest.
Like the West Indies have shown enough for me to say they're a force. If they can get things right, and we talked about it earlier, Brandon King maybe at the opening role, and their bowlers have got. I really like Alzarri Joseph. I think he's coming along leaps and bounds. Kemo Paul has proven to be a genuine all-rounder. Of the bowling unit, probably Jason Holder had the worst series. To be fair, it was his first wicket today in the one-day series. He still went for 60s. He probably had the worst series of any of the bowlers. This is a good side. This is a side that tested India properly tonight. After putting runs on the board. So I've actually enjoyed it. I've enjoyed watching their style of play, and if they can find that style and continue to grow that style, I think they're certainly a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, if you look at the innings progressions, really it was a tale of two halves almost. Well, not literally half if you're a mathematician. 30 plus 20 when they were batting, 30 plus 20 even when they were bowling. Have a look at the West Indies innings, what really happened between 31 to 40 and then 41 to 50. The difference again coming, India had established a little bit more. They didn't have that 26 for 2 type period. So therefore, they were never behind.
No, again, you look at this match and you say, Ravindra Jadeja, but what is it? 215 of the 316 that we had to score came from your top 3 batsmen. So again, the bulk of the runs was delivered by them. I mean, it's a different matter that Jadeja had to finish it. But every time India does well, it's also because your top order, without fuss, 8 times out of 10, the top 3 go and give you 150, 200 odd runs. And that's the secret of your success. That's the secret of India's consistency in this format. It's just the top 3 always performing, almost always performing.
And we talked about the stat between Rahul and Rohit Sharma. Every time they cross 30, it gets to 3 figures. And once again, have a look at this list of ODI 100 partnerships. Started with that one in against Pakistan, and now yet again, they've converted it to a big one.
What have they had? 10 opening stands now. 5 below 30 and 5 above 30, which have all been well in excess of 122. So it's phenomenal. And as I say, one of those 2 should have gone on. Yes, you can look at them and say, okay, well, a couple of incidents there where if one of us gets 100, it's an easy victory. It's a comfortable victory. So they'll be disappointed within themselves, and they should be with that. But when they put that 30 together, you just lock them in for 100. There it is, done. 100 on the board. Thanks very much.
And of course, with Virat Kohli, we did sort of mention it at the start. He had a horrendous record at Cuttack, just the reverse of what he had at Vizag. And the result was the opposite. He had a great record at Vizag, first ball dark. Today he comes into a ground where he just hadn't ticked the boxes. And typical of Virat Kohli, he would have told himself, look, is there a place where I haven't scored runs? Let me fix it.
Yeah, and this is not your classical Virat innings. This is a innings in which he's never quite got going. Got a couple of strokes that look good, but otherwise he ran hard and he did the hard yards. And these are the innings that define batsmen like Virat Kohli. There are days that Virat Kohli will look like God and he'll get the runs. This is the kind of day where he looked like nothing. But you go back, you see that 80 odd runs, you see that strike rate of 104, and you say he's battled through it. And great players basically give you runs even when they look completely out of form.
Ugly runs, they call them.
Ugly runs.
Ugly runs.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that is the key. You're spot on. I mean, it wasn't a fluent Kohli type innings, but he just gets the job done. And that was it was a tired shot to get out too, I think, wasn't it? It was just, he just looked like maybe he was a little bit exhausted because he had run so hard because he wasn't finding the middle of the bat consistently. He'd run so hard, it just looked like a bit of a tired shot to get out as well.
36 of boundaries, which is not at all, I mean, Virat hits so much more, not a single 6. That's not his kind of innings. So, yeah, and I remember even when Rohit, took out his helmet, the amount of, it was the moisture out there, it was hot. These were difficult conditions to bat in.
And when you're the captain, that's the important stuff. I mean, that's what your team sees. The team sees when you're struggling, but you still produce the goods. And when you're the skipper, and that's the sort of skipper and the leader that he is, that the team looking around going, geez, Virat's struggling. I mean, it's not easy, but just look at how he's fighting through. Look how he's still putting a score on the board when he knows that it's not easy, and he knows he's not at his best. So that's what you take from that sort of innings from him.
And of course, we did tell you that the venue may not have been great for Virat Kohli till today, but for Team India, it has been a Kotoko or a fortress.
Kotoko means fortress, absolutely. Just look at that record out there. And I think also, you know, they get crowd support all over the country, but it's particularly enjoyable to watch crowd support in smaller places like Cuttack and Vizag, because they don't get that many games, and you know, the whole city comes behind it. It's a big social occasion. They'll talk about it for the rest of the year. You know, that India match where Virat was there and scored 80. And it's fantastic. I think it's great for cricket.
And that graphic tells you that you have to be a very, very, very good team.
Who are
India at Cuttack.
You know where that's coming from?
Oh, I didn't see.
Did you see the graphic?
I don't.
The only team to beat India at Cuttack?
I don't
New Zealand,
know.
of course.
I don't even know who it was. I just think you have to be a very. I just think you have to be a very good team to beat India.
I was wondering if he was
needed
going
to sneak that in. You needed to sneak that in from somewhere. Jesus.
Yes, I was wondering if he was going to do it or if we needed to get him into it, but Simon's always one step ahead. Yes, but yes, fabulous indeed for India to keep that record going.
I just don't like the way you behave. You're just ignoring this. You've been trying to ignore it from the beginning. Huh? What is this all about?
Guilty as charged. Guilty as charged. We were just so overwhelmed by India's victory that we had not acknowledged Simon's victory. Thank you, Joy. And apologies, Simon. There you are, sitting on the Maharaja, the My 11 Circle expert couch. This was, of course, what will India be at the 10-over mark. And I have to say, Joy, for the second time, it took one boundary that came a one ball too late.
Exactly. All they had to do was hit the boundary in the back last over. The 9.5, they patted 2 balls back. That was Rohit Sharma.
Rohit Sharma.
Yeah, it was good. Beautiful defence.
Defence that you've ever seen.
Beautiful defence from Rohit Sharma.
I have never seen you appreciate
those last, that ball, it was just there. It was just like boom, you know, that was just so nice.
And I was just watching him go.
So impressed with Rohit's defence on that occasion.
This is a mercenary attitude from your experts. I think you need to look at these experts very carefully.
I was going to say it's the kind of defence that we might have even seen from the bat of Simon Dool, but the last time he spoke about his batting, it was about hitting Saqlain Mushtaq's Dusra to all parts. You hit it for 6, did you?
That was in the car on the way home. We weren't supposed to bring that up. No, If you want me to tell the story, we were in Sharjah and we hadn't seen Saqlain Mushtaq much at all, or I hadn't certainly played against him. And I think we were 8 down for not many, and Pakistan were well and truly on top. And I came out to bat with Adam Parori was at the other end, and it might have been about second or third ball from Saqlain. I've just had a swipe at one down the ground and just middled it straight over long off for 6. And it was the end of the over. And Adam Parori walks down to me and he says, "How the beep did you pick the Dusra?" I said, "The what?" "I had no idea what the Dusra was. He said, "It's the one that goes the other way." I said, "Oh, no, I didn't see it." Not a clue.
That's the day Adam Parori decided to climb a mountain.
I think so.
Became a mountain.
Yeah, after that Everest, nothing can be more difficult than this. I can't watch him hit 6s the other end.
Well, let's go and again recap, sum up the series so far. As Simon mentioned, it has been a competitive series. First, it started with the 3 T20 internationals, India winning in Hyderabad, West Indies coming back well, and then in the decider, once again, it was Team India who do it time and time again when the chips are down. When the ODI series started in Chennai, what a good victory it was for the West Indies, Shimron Hetmeyer and company, and this time India had to win 2 on the trot, and they did it. Huge victory at Vizag, and then not the most massive of victories, but a clinical victory that finished at the end, finished off by Jadeja and Shardul Thakur. What about the overall results now we're seeing? Let's have a look at the years from 2007 to 2019. The record we talked about, impeccable, remains impeccable. The series between India and the West Indies. And this is the kind of domination West Indies will want to change sometime soon.
Absolutely. I think this shows more about India as a team rather than the talent of the two teams. Just India as a team, a more experienced side, and a side that's just far more used to winning, and a team that don't change around. The fact that they consistently win what you call key matches, when the teams are tied, it just shows you how much experience the team has, how much belief they have in themselves.
And one thing you'll notice over there, there were no whitewashes. No. There was one 2-0, but that was 2-0 with one match that had a no result. It was washed out. But every other game, the West Indies did win. So it's not that they were pushovers. They were competing.
And even the graphic beforehand, it'll show you 8 wickets, it'll show you 107 runs and 4 wickets. But they were tighter than that. I mean, when you're chasing a score well in excess of 300, which was the Vizag one, you either go for it and you get close, or you actually lose by quite a lot. That's not a bad result. The win was, 8-wicket win was a cruise. It was a very, very good win. And this game, they were pushed. India were pushed right to the brink in this game in particular. So I think if you take that 107, in isolation, you look at it and you think, oh, gee, that's a thrashing. Well, when you're chasing, as I said, in excess of 350, you're very rarely going to get either really close or you're just going to lose by quite a lot. And that's just one of those situations. So I think the series as a whole was a lot closer. There were some good matchups and some very good performances from West Indies. So and obviously from India.
Of course, in terms of the points that were going to be scored in our own little game that we had there, we had Rohit Sharma, Virat Kohli and Kuldeep Yadav as our little predictions for the most points. So that one, despite getting the My 11 Circle expert couch, Simon would have to concede that one. Between Joy and myself, I think I just edged it out.
I think we did pretty well, yeah.
We did pretty well?
But you did better than me, yeah, I have to say.
But what we did say at that point in time was that with that score they're chasing, they'll need both.
Yep.
Yes. They needed both Rohit Sharma and Virat Kohli. They both put the runs on the board, the points on the board. So what is our My 11 Circle ultimate team of the day? And yes, there is Virat Kohli, there is Rohit Sharma, but you'd have to be fair. Nicholas Pooran was the star, the individual star of the day. And if you had him as captain and add to it the likes of Shardul Thakur, Hetmyer, Karen Pollard, key runs at the end there, some wickets for Navdeep Saini, wickets for Kimo Paul. So this is, of course, the utopian ultimate team of the day. Not everyone would necessarily have all the players, but one person did have pretty much most of them. Our My 11 Circle champion of the day is, for the last time in 2019, Manish Walia. Look at that hairstyle. Gotta love that. Oh, is that blue or green?
I don't know. I was looking at the points.
Yeah, 638.
638. He's had a good day out.
Big day.
Well, anyway, there we have a winner for that. But overall, I know there were a few whispers looking at ODIs saying that, look, the next year T20 World Cup is coming and our ODI is meaningless. But nonetheless, you've got to say it's a bona fide format. It's a World Cup year. And if you've got to look at 2019 in review, India will be delighted to finish off with a win with maybe the middle of the year wasn't that memorable.
Yeah, just sort of scrub out June and July. January, February was a great start to the year. December's a great finish to the year. If we just forget that little summer period in England happened, and I think everything will be okay. Australia, New Zealand, very good. 4-1 against New Zealand. They were brilliant. That was the return of Mohammad Shami for me. ODI series versus Australia lost.
Then, of course, the World Cup, losing to the very dapper men in black in the semi-final. That was June and July. Then coming up in the West Indies, they won that 2-0 with one match washed out. And then towards the end of the year, of course, which we've just seen, the ODI series against the West Indies at home, the last ODI of the year, the last international outing for Team India, winning that 2-1. So good start to the year, good finish to the year.
And to be honest, it wasn't that bad a middle as well. I mean, India had a couple of bad matches in the World Cup, but they won 7 games. And let's not take away credit from the team they are. They were an excellent team. Yes, there were problems at number 4. Yes, there were issues. Maybe they should have played Shami in the semi-finals. Put all that aside, it's a class 1 side. It's a great competitive side that goes out there and plays really good cricket and entertaining cricket. So let's not take away from even that part. I think India is an excellent team and they've just shown it. Just the consistency that they've given you through the year, I think, gives you some amount of this thing of what kind of a team they are.
I think the reason, Simon, that we're even saying that is because you've set such high standards already, because of the expectation, winning in 2011, pretty decent in 2015 in conditions in Australia, and then with the expectation that high in 2019, a semi-final wasn't a bad result.
Not a bad result at all. And I think if you look overall, I was trying to add that up, sort of 77, 78%, close to 80% win. So you're winning almost 8 out of 10 games as a team. I mean, geez, any country would take that.
Yeah.
It's just that the standard is so high and the bar is set so high that we tend to analyse and look for reasons for the losses rather than at times, and this is something I think that is not done enough, just credit to the opposition. They're allowed to play well. The opposition are allowed to play okay. You don't have to be. You're not going to be the best day in, day out. You can't. It's nigh on impossible. Someone's going to knock you off your pedestal at some stage, and we saw that with that one performance from the West Indies in Chennai. They're allowed to play well.
Yes, certainly are. But I must say, on a personal note, I was a little disappointed because even though it might be a little trivial, I was really enjoying that hairstyle. For some reason, it was taken away. Are we okay to look at that one more time?
I'm happy to look at that again. We were looking at the
My
points.
11th circle champion of the day, and we just sort of tided it over. There you go, 638.25 points. But the reason we brought it back was because of that hairstyle. Is it blue or is it green?
I think it's blonde. I think they're blonde streaks.
Is it just the light falling?
Yeah,
on?
I think it's the light, isn't it? I don't know. Maybe Manish Walia will let us know.
Yeah. Maybe something about the air in Himachal in this part of the world. Maybe it's just frozen. Maybe
it's
just
cold
ice.
up. It's cold up there at the moment.
It is.
That's a good
cold
explanation.
Up there at the moment.
Yeah, it's freezing.
And Joy, you weren't objecting to that hair, given that you've had few sartorial objections generally?
You see, what happened is after seeing you in this seat for about 20-25 minutes, my eyes gloss over. After that, all I see is black and white. So I'm sorry, I just didn't notice properly. But, there's already too much brightness in front of me. I can't see too much more.
But remember, even though this might be our final show of the year, we've still got plenty of content to bring to you, and let's just remind you of what lies ahead while we are still in 2019.
What a finish! What more can you ask for from this game?
As 2019 draws to a close, I thought it'd be a nice time to take a look back how I see world cricket and how I see where it's going.
That's one of the finest knocks I've witnessed.
2019 किस के लिए अच्छा गया वो बात उस पे बात करने के लिए मैं आया हूं स्पेशली बल्लेबाजों के लिए लेकिन जो मैं चुनने वाला हूं यहां पर मुझे नहीं लगता कि उसमें सिर्फ बल्लेबाजी में उसमें कुछ ऐसे गेंदबाज भी हैं जिन्होंने बेहतरीन बल्लेबाजी कर अपनी टीम को मैचेस जिताए हैं
That's an unbelievable catch on the boundary.
मोहम्मद कैफ और फील्डिंग एफर्ट्स की बात करें तो 2019 में कुछ कैचेस पकड़े गए कुछ रनआउट्स हुए बट मेंशन करते हैं उसी वाकये का जहन में जो चीज़ बैठ जाए
It's moments like these that make you fall in love with the game.
5 मोमेंट याद करने को कहा गया है कि क्या मोमेंट याद आते हैं तो मुझे जो आते हैं मैं आपके साथ शेयर करने की कोशिश कर रहा हूँ
I just can't believe the scenes out there. It's unbelievable.
Who's going to tell you the stuff from behind the scenes, the kind of funny stuff that nobody ever picks up on? I'm here, Joy Bhattacharya, and I'm going to tell you all about what happens just beside me.
Along with them, I'll be here too on Crick Buzz with the best of 2019.
Yes, look out for that. The few days left in 2019, we will bring you the best of 2019 from our big panel of experts. Kieron Pollard at the end, expectedly giving full credit to his players, didn't say that he's disappointed and proud of his boys, and so he should be.
All I want from the West Indies is to say, okay, for the next year and a half, Kieron Pollard is your white ball captain. Let him do the job. Let him run this. This is a good team. This is a good base. Add a couple of pieces that you might get. You might get a Dwayne Bravo coming in, may get Sunil Narine coming in, may get a Russell coming in. But your core is already there. Leave these guys alone. Let them cook together. I think West Indies could be a really exciting side this year, and 2020.
It was a good move. I mean, who would have seen it coming maybe a couple of years ago when he was pretty much out of the game?
Yeah, well, there's so much talk about him not wanting to play for the West Indies, and under that regime that was there prior to in the hierarchy, there was a number of players, 5, 6, 7 players at different times that said I just have no interest in playing for the West Indies. Well, now all of those players want to come back. DJ Bravo wants to come back now as well. Russell, Narine, Pollard, they all want to play again, and that can only be good. Because a West Indies team with those guys in it and world cricket with those guys at the international level is better for them playing. So, to me, with the young talent that we've already talked about so much, and the Hetmeyers and Nicholas Pooran, who was brilliant tonight, King, if he can come through, Alzari Joseph, Kemo Paul, Khairi Pierre, Hayden Walsh Jr., not so young but an opportunity. If those guys can stick together with some of the experienced players, if Russell's back, if Bravo's back and fully fit and rearing to go, if Narine's back and fully fit and rearing to go, they're a chance of the third T20 World Championship. absolute chance down under. I mean, they all play the quick bowling well. They hook, they pull, they do everything they can. They've got quick bowling back. I mean, they are a chance of being 3 times champions now. You'd have to put them in your considerations.
Absolutely.
Yeah, look out for them. But a champion performance from one individual from Team India. Undoubtedly the man of the series, finishing the year on a high, Rohit Sharma. What a 2019 he's had. We've had sort of sparring discussions saying that, is it Rohit Sharma's year? Pretty much.
No, absolutely. And not only that, if you look at it, he's piled on some 1,400, 1,500 runs in one-day international cricket. And that's still not his biggest achievement of the year. If Rohit Sharma was to look back at this year, he wouldn't be looking at that. He wouldn't be looking at the World Cup. He'd probably be looking at saying, I resurrected my test career. And I think that's the one thing, the one frontier he hasn't done for a very long time. So it's amazing when you're the top scorer in terms of one-day international runs, you're one of the best players in the World Cup, and yet your biggest achievement is in test cricket. What a year you've had.
And a great way to finish. I mean, it's just, a man of the series is just a title. It is. But it's a title that was deserved. We can think of the World Cup, but as Joy said, you clubbed that with the one area that he had just not ticked. He was not even in the team.
Oh, well, that's the thing. That's the key, isn't it, for Rohit? I mean, he knows he's in that white ball side. He knows he's a staple part of it. He's one of the leadership group in any white ball format, whether it be the 2020s or the ODIs. And to resurrect a test career, he's done that. He's got the man of the series here. He's won another IPL title. Which we failed to mention. He's had an enormous year, and I've said it the other night. He's the first opener picked on any all-time white ball 11.
And I know you said that. You said that it was a headline, and deservedly so. But I think one thing that Rohit said stood out for me at the end of the game, and it's just the one line. He said, "I understand my batting," and I think that's so important to know yourself.
Absolutely, I think it's so important. And if anyone needs to listen to that very carefully, it's young Rishabh Pant. Because for the longest time, though his record was much better at that stage, Rohit was looked on as potential, this great potential who seemed to frustrate. Again, a very polarizing player. That polarizing is over. Today, Rohit is understandably and deservedly one of the greats. And maybe somewhere Rishabh needs to look at that and say, you know what, I just focus on my game, I try and understand it as Rohit has said, and maybe I can get to where Rohit is today.
Yeah, certainly is. And if any of you understand this wonderful game of cricket overall, you would probably have had your mobile phones out there ready to answer today's Joy Factor question. The question is, who got it faster? But first, what was the question?
And it's an interesting one to end the year with, and it's somebody who's pretty current. Which current cricketer connects a champion Australian racehorse that retired in April this year? A nickname for New Zealand bowler Gavin Larson, an alcoholic beverage made from apples, and the connection is basically Pat Cummins, because Winx is the name of the racehorse. That's one of his nicknames. The Postman is another nickname because, like Gavin Larson, he always delivers the goods. And Cider is the third of his nicknames. And so Pat Cummins is your answer.
Yep. So who do we raise a cider to for this answer? Who is our winner today?
Last time this year.
For the final time this year. Is that a first time?
I think that's the first time. I have not seen that name before.
Yeah, it just looks unfamiliar to me, which is a good thing. We want more and more of you to be hitting the hashtag CricBuzzLive. So Anish Ansel, very interesting name, Anish Ansel, wins our Joy Factor question. I think it was one of the slightly tougher ones that you had to actually go through and have a look at. No matter how current Pat Cummins might have been for obvious reasons, you still had to go the wrong way around to come.
Yeah, absolutely. These Kiwis, Australians, they all go the wrong way around. It's coming from the other side.
Yeah, we're sort of
the other side
goes the other. No, I don't know. The water goes a different way
counterclockwise.
Goes counterclockwise down the bowl and stuff back home too.
Well, it's time to sort of wish everyone all the best for the festive season. Simon, we'll probably see you back during the IPL.
Hopefully,
IPL time.
Hopefully so. Looking forward to it.
We hope to see you in the IPL. I hope to see you before that. And I have news for you. Next year, I'm doing all your clothes shopping.
No, we're doing yours.
Okay.
We're doing yours. We need
Right. You might as well have a black and white show next year then.
Yeah, whatever. But remember the challenge that we also threw out. You've heard it on the final show of the year. He might be wanting to do my shopping, but in return, we are going to be doing his shopping. So Joy, if you're doing that, you've got to accept our challenge. We're going to have one show where we are going to outfit you. How's that?
Perfect.
Challenge accepted?
Challenge accepted, but play it in black and white. No, it's okay, fine. I'll take it.
We'll find our way. Thank you, Simon. Thank you, Joy.
Thank you.
On behalf of all of us, wishing all of you a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. From My 11 Circle presents Crickbuzz Live from our final game on the 50-50 format. It's time to say a very big hello to 2020. We'll see you back on the 5th of January.